a 60-year-old retired man can have, just as interesting conversations with a 20-year-old barista
Yes.
as, a 13-year-old kid who walked down there to do his homework. I really love that. So I think that what it is about people who tend to bartend or work at coffee shops and be a barista, it's not even that they are more, and I know you'll agree with this, it's not that they're necessarily more talented, it's that we're just by nature like open people. And that's often why we sought out that profession, is to be able to be open with people that aren't just our, immediate kin.
Unity through diversity is like a big party where everyone brings their own special dish, just like each dish has its own flavor. Each person has their own unique gifts and qualities. On our podcast, we will be breaking bread with guests who are dishing out their own personal stories and sharing us just how delicious diversity can be. So put on your dancing shoes, grab a fork and knife, and let's celebrate unity through diversity in style.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Unity Through Diversity. And this beautiful afternoon, welcome Nathan, Patrick, Hanley. Yes. So thanks you for coming here to my space. And I think we're going to have a great time. I know we talked a little bit about the opening, about how we, what kind of things we might going to talk about. But just let you know, it's once we are in this flow, let's see where the flow take us. Okay, will you just say hi to everybody and tell everybody like what do you do and where you come from? It's just very simple ones, and we dive into the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Nathan. I'm from Saginaw, Michigan, which is a big part of my identity, I think. I am an actor by trade, writer and director a little bit as well, but primarily actor. But for a day job, I've worked at coffee shops for the last 6 years, and that's a big passion of mine as well.
Yeah, so talking about a coffee shop, that's how I met Nathan at first place. I think it's 2021, right?
Yeah.
You were working at Harrison Hill, and at that time, I just moved to Bay City at that time.
You had just moved there. I didn't know that.
I just moved there, and so crazy thing is, through Harrison Hill, I made so many great friendships and sisterhood, and you are one of them because you moved away in short period of time after maybe 5-6 months later, right? In 2022, I think you moved away. But it's just I want to honor those local business as well. It's a lot of time now. Even I go to the coffee shop. That moment when you were working there, I know every barista.
Yeah.
That's what was crazy. Yeah. And then later, just somehow now, and not say I don't know them, it's just I don't really remember their name that much
but
now.
For that moment, we were all very together. There was
exactly.
Like this moment of energy, and we all knew each other and connected a lot.
Yes, there is something there. The other day, I was talking to like Rick, and he's our mutual friend, and we were talking about that, that period of time, how we really connected with each other, right? But anyway, this is how we met that time, and then talking about it, like working in a coffee shop, and I realized that through talking to you guys, actually you guys remind me or showed me that every person, I mean, like when I say every person has story, but especially those people working in a coffee shop for some reason, like bartender, later I literally connected with some bartenders as well, because I'm just so curious. I was like, because I'm from China, so I never like bartender anything or like be a like waiter or something. So I don't really quite understand of how the life in the United States and why, not say why people go to wait table or whatever. I just never be my experience.
Yeah.
So when I connect with people in coffee shop, in the, in the bar, and I realized I was, damn, every single person that I met, you guys are really, really talented. And I was wondering, like, of course, coffee shop, you can meet so many people, right? Make an income cash, but will you tell me a little bit, tell us a little bit, tell our audience a little bit, it's like, why at first place you choose to work in a coffee shop?
Yeah, it's interesting what you were saying about just like people working in that kind of profession where, they're making beverage, serving it to you and connecting with you a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I got into it, is I think it comes from this space of like, wanting to connect with strangers more and hear their story and stuff.
Yeah.
So I essentially grew up at the Red Eye Cafe in Saginaw,
Okay.
which was the first coffee shop that I would end up working at later. But I was going there since really since I was a kid, but really seriously since I was like 12 or 13. And I was there all the time and talking to the baristas. And it was just one of those places where, the same guys come in every day, sit in the same chair for 30 years, get the same drink kind of thing. And I just fell in love with it as a place to connect and have that kind of like space where, a 60-year-old retired man can have, just as interesting conversations with a 20-year-old barista.
Yes.
As a 13-year-old kid who walked down there to do his homework. I really love that. So I think that what it is about people who tend to bartend or work at coffee shops and be a barista, it's not even that they are more, and I know you'll agree with this, it's not that they're necessarily more talented, it's that we're just by nature like open people. And that's often why we sought out that profession, is to be able to be open with people that aren't just our immediate kin. And be able to learn a bit of their story too. So the social element of baristing is definitely why I got into it. And I love coffee and learning about it and how to make it better and stuff like that. That's a great hobby of mine, and it's an honor to do it as a profession.
Yes.
But definitely the social aspect is why I do it. And so I think it's no surprise that like a lot of baristas and bartenders are like that.
Yeah. This is the one side of like thanks for sharing with me the like connecting with people, but on the other side I noticed like everyone you guys have your own tenets of your profession, like Jaren, he's into music, and Chloe, of course, she's gonna come later for the podcast, but she's very talented as well, like not just the talent for making coffee. Of course, you guys both, like every time, the other day I told the barista in the Populace. Now I go there a lot because for some meetings I was like 5 days out in the same coffee shop. I was like, everybody kind of like, we know each other now, right? Yeah. And I shared with one barista. I was like, hey, because she made it this little heart, green heart. Because I haven't had many people make those designs, not say for me, because after you left, Chloe left, whoever, all the people left. And I was like, I'm missing, every time I go there, you guys will always make this random design, but so beautiful. I would take pictures. So when she made that, I was like, oh my goodness, I just miss all of you guys, all the design. And she started like smiling because it made me feel very connected, right? You guys, that's something that I really love to go to Huntington Hill. That's my favorite place. I just want people, because this podcast is going to release probably a lot of people in the community. I don't want people to have, Gina choose different coffee shop. No, I was like, the crazy thing is that I want to invite all of them on the podcast, because I want to do one series of this coffee shop and restaurant, which is in making. But I think that it's really connecting with me, is like, you've been treated as not say treated as human, you have human connection. It's not just a job. Like, hey, you got your coffee, go. Yeah. It's like, there's some little touch there. And I think that time you guys did a great job, because now you're not working there. So that's why I say you did a good job there. I appreciate it. And Chloe did as well, because she's not working there anymore. Jaren just left as well.
Jaren just left.
Yeah. So all the old baristas, not older, but
no, it's weird. There was this period where it was like this solid crew, and we were all super close, and it was only about like 6 months long. But sometimes the universe just decides and puts these people together, and you just really vibe for a while, and people go off and do their thing, and that's fine. But no, it's really beautiful.
The period of time. So I want to talk a little bit more on this coffee shop thing. Okay, so you said how old?
I am 22.
No. How old was you first started working for a coffee shop? You said
when I first started working, I probably got hired at the Red Eye, I think, when I was 17.
Okay, so
that's I think I got hired at the Red Eye when I was 17. So it's going on 5 years.
Okay, so how many coffee shops you worked?
Red Eye, the Lock Coffee Shop in Midland, Harless and Hugh, and then Creation Coffee. So four coffee shops. Yeah.
Okay, so if I would have you to summarize those in your perspective, right, to be a successful, well-connected coffee shop, because those coffee shops you work at, they are local brand. It's not like there's nothing wrong with Starbucks.
But they're not corporate chains.
Exactly, those like local owned small business. Yeah, like what you work for. You already worked for four of them. Now it's this creation is the
Yeah.
current one. You are working for them. To your understand, to your perspective, working in this industry for 5 years. What if you use 3 words to describe it? You know, what a successful or well-connected coffee shop, their characteristic would be.
Like the characteristic.
Because you are also actor, which we're gonna touch on that. If you are writing your own script of like what a right, that's really very connected. So
like what makes a coffee shop? What is the quality that a coffee shop can cultivate that makes it, you know, the longevity of it is your
exactly yes.
Yeah, I think that the first key, and of course it's always going to be biased because it's filtered through, you know, my first experiences in coffee, which was the red eye. But I think the key of it is having this space and this culture where nobody's like above one another. Like it's not like, oh, the barista is like the boss right now. I'm going to order my drink and I'm going to do this. Obviously everybody's respectful, but like this culture of like, hey, I'm just doing my job. What do you do for a job? And like having everybody on this same kind of level, including the owners, you know, Harless and Hugh, the owners are in all the time and, you know, talking to people. So I think just like, whatever it is, that thing that makes the fibers of a community strong, like I think that that quality that I talked about earlier, where, you know, a kid that's coming in to do homework can talk to, you know, maybe some of the older generation that hangs out there and have this regular crowd. So I guess in simple terms, like a really solid regular crowd of people that like that's their space. I'm not sure that I can describe how you choose what your space is, though. It's one of those things that like, you just know it when you feel it. Like Harless has it, Red Eye had it, Creation has it. It's just that. Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard thing to describe.
I love the part that actually brought up those, you know, like I myself, I go to a certain coffee shop, right? Like for some reason, it's like I just for different purpose. Sometimes if I have business meeting, I would choose because the lighting really matters.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
You know, some lighting is more of like with some besties or friend catch up.
Yeah.
Some coffee shop, you just can't talk about business in those lighting. It's just you make things. I don't know. It's like we're more serious talking about move forward things instead of like, hey, what's going on in your life?
Yeah,
you know,
of course. Yeah.
Type of thing. So for me, it's goes to those depends on what kind of occasion.
Yeah. No, I get that.
But also the part you touched about to have those people, you see them regularly. And in Harley Hill, that group of older gentlemen and old ladies, and it's so cute to see them. And now I see them sometimes in Harley Hill, sometimes in Publix, because they saw me. I don't know their names, but they probably don't know my name, but they recognize me. I recognize them. Yeah. Every time we walk in, we say, hey, you know, how's your group doing, right? Sometimes if we have more time to catch up a little bit.
Yeah, but these little cliques that move around to different coffee shops. Yeah.
Yes, and it's also brought up as this community because you not only just see them there, you see them around in the different places. Then you have this this home type of feeling. Is like, I know if I go to Hanley right now, I'm probably gonna run into 3 to 5 people.
Oh yeah,
that's very you know, instead of
I did when I was there before I came here. So exactly.
Right. So I think it's, you know, thank you for touching on that. It's like the coffee shop you see whether they are successful or not is like whether they provide this space for people this regular same as restaurant as well, right? Some people they just follow.
Well, what that makes me think of is like there's this thing about coffee shops that's unique to almost any other like location where people can meet up and go to, right? You have restaurants where you can meet up and have a great conversation, you eat and stuff like that, but it's typically like, okay, I finished our food, now we're going to leave. Like you don't just hang out for a long time. A bar you might do so too, but also obviously then you have this added element of like impairment. And my father and mother owned a bar, so I'm not bashing that either. But coffee shop is this weird thing where like people just hang out for hours and hours and hours, however long they want, with you know, a cup of coffee in their hand. And so I think there's that thing of like being at home in public, like being outside of your home, but having that energy of like sitting on the couch and talking to a friend. I think that's maybe that quality that I was talking about. You know, you don't want a space that's uptight where you have to feel like you have to present yourself a certain way, because that's what so much of us already do every day. You know what I mean? Is put on this performance of us. So I think that finding a space that is both aesthetically comfortable, but also just the general clientele in that city or that space makes a space to where you can feel like you're just chilling on the couch at home, chit-chatting with some buddies, go on your phone, go on your laptop, hang out there instead of just on your couch alone. I think that's like a really cool thing that you can't do a lot of other places.
Yeah. So next one, I think this is more of my selfish personal question, because, you know, I have nothing to do, you know, like coffee shop is cool. Like I said, I love the feeling of a coffee shop.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I have a dream coffee shop.
Yeah.
So that's why I say, hey, this is more selfish questions. It's not like trying to put you on the spot, but I was, if you have any resources, right? All the ideas you can come to this 3D world. If you would design a perfect coffee shop, not as perfect for other people, perfect for you, like in your mind, idea coffee shop, what would that coffee shop look like?
Yeah, so I actually have almost started a few coffee shops or came into the ownership of one. So I have thought about this quite a bit.
Nice. So it's not so selfish.
Yeah, no, it's not selfish at all. No, I mean, absolutely. I think that it's interesting because if you're to ask me, like, oh, what's the coffee shop that I look for and want to hang out at, you would think that's going to be the same one that I start. But I have a little bit of a different philosophy. I'm a very aesthetically driven person, at least when I'm trying to decompress and hang out. So I like a lot of, like, a kind of rustic aesthetic, you know, really kind of old buildings, used tables and stuff like that. Heartless kind of fits that description, the Red I certainly did. And I love that aesthetic and stuff like that. And the culture of the coffee shop, obviously, we already talked about. And, you know, I could talk about the recipes of what I would do. But I think that almost when you're talking about a coffee shop, the only tangible thing you can describe is, all right, how's it going to look? You know?
Yes.
And I think that for me, because coffee is so important to me, it may sound a little bit preachy. When I, in 2020, when the Black Lives Matter movement was going on, I did a lot of deep diving into POC-owned coffee shops and coffee roasters, because the coffee industry is dominated by Asian and American owners usually. There's not a lot of black and brown people that own coffee shops and stuff. Yeah, there's not. Or rather there are, but they're not supported as much or what is well known. And so I really put a tangible effort into like learning about those businesses to support them. And I even there was a roaster that, forgive me, I can't remember the name of now, but that I had on my radar that was a POC owned roaster that I was going to have as my house blend.
POC standing for
person of color.
Yes.
For person of color, yeah. So that to say, if I was to open a coffee shop, I think that for me, coming from this place of knowing how much a coffee shop can become a second home to people who really need it, that was what it was for me when I first started going.
Yeah.
I think that the aesthetic of a lot of coffee shops these days, you know, all the white walls and stuff like that, there's actually a lot of research that's psychologically aggressive towards people of color a lot of time, because they associate these aesthetics with these Eurocentric and American aesthetics that they're not going to feel as comfortable in. And so I think that if I open a coffee shop, the thing I always say is that I want to have like a very, very thorough look at research on aesthetics and whatnot. And I want to achieve an aesthetic that, yes, is personal to me, that I love, but also can't be considered like a microaggression against a person of color. So in other words, I'd like the style of architecture and the colors and the decorating to be something that isn't just focused on me as a white man. Because my idea of like comforting is like, oh, crates and barrels and like, you know, old trunks and whatnot. But that's not necessarily going to be a comfortable aesthetic for everyone. That's just my background. So I want to make sure that I put a more conscious effort into that. So to answer the question, I can't really describe it right now because I haven't done the research. I know that I want it to be personal to me, but I also know that it's not going to look like the coffee shop that's going to be my favorite one to go to personally. It's something that I want to be more universal.
That's very interesting when you brought up like what were the place I like to hang out, first place I create for other people. Obviously, you said you did not do much homework. I feel like you did much homework in your mind of like to really bring this intention come in, right?
Yeah,
The intention is not just like
huge.
what I love to be in the space, because now for me, I want to share a little bit because this is not about me, but because I brought it up, I kind of want to pick up other people's mind and see where's the access point. And I love the place you said is a second home or the community place, because the place I envision in my mind, like I said, that's why I say that I don't really drink coffee, so nothing about the coffee. But the thing is like, hey, I don't need to make coffee. I can have people who's passionate at making great coffee to be in the space that I co-create with them.
Yeah.
So the space I'm actually envision, I would like to create in the community. Of course, that's a community hangout space.
Yeah.
And I personally, not say I'm lazy. I like to, if I don't have to stand up, I will sit down.
Yeah.
If I don't have to, get up, I will just lay on the couch, whatever thing. So it's like that place got to meet different needs for people.
Yeah.
Some people want to hang out. They have nothing to do contact with anybody. They maybe want to sleep on a hammock.
Yeah.
They just put a headphone on. They just want to relax.
Yeah.
And some people go to the coffee shop. They talk about business. They want to sit up on the table.
Yeah.
Some people, they are just typing, maybe creative. They just want to have this one single couch. They just like.
Everybody has their own way of being
exactly.
at home.
So what I'm envisioning, because I also like plants, because what is best way to actually connect you with what's going on is plants, because plants, they constantly support you healing because they provide a lot of oxygen, whatever, in the environment. I was like, plants is a must.
Yeah.
And multifunction is also, but not a multifunction. Oh, this is the meeting room. No, I don't like they have doors, like have this meeting room or whatever, but I use those plants to be so divider or something to create this space, so space, and also incorporate it with the reading, have the bookshelf, all the books from community. People can donate, people can bring in.
Yeah.
It's more of self-running like concept. Like I say that, like it's not me running. Of course, the place I probably need to provide space where they put it together. But Barista, we're gonna come in with their own, like if you're a barista, if you bring all things, you'll be there.
Yeah.
Whatever, maybe the pricing will be a little bit cheaper too, because things I don't take any. Like whoever owns space don't take any, because we are co-creating things.
Yeah.
And more of taking care of small business, like people have passion. Let's say 1920, they just want to making great coffee, but they're not being just they need to pay, I don't know how much you need to pay for the space, whatever, but it's a small percentage to roll back to for the place who's running the place to get the resources to go for that. But the one area would be artwork, because painting next to the plants, whatever, it's that's what I see, because some people, they just want to come here to do the artwork. And then like also books, and also people might learn how to plant the pots, whatever. They bring some pots here, they take some. So everything is like, I don't know whether it's a dreaming thing that I'm seeing, but I was like, when we talk about the community, if you're talking about you treat a place as a home, so can we bring up this concept that people come to the place, treat it as home? How would you place your things in your home space? That's the community hangout space, also a coffee shop, also greenhouse, also a multifunctional area for people to hang out, not just for business people, not just for young or whatever.
Yeah, it's that thing of just like creating a space intentionally that leaves room for the things that you bringing your humanity to the best that you can to the space that you create, allowing room for the kinds of humanity that you don't have experience with or can't imagine. So it's that thing of like, why not have plants? Plants aren't my thing, but like that makes a lot of people feel safe. Let's put that in a space. Let's have maybe a TV in the back or something that has sports on. That's not something you see at a coffee shop, but that makes a lot of people feel at home, and that's what they do when they wind down to relax or hang out with friends. So it's about including these things that are diverse enough to where that space can truly be a melting pot of people to actually make it.
I love you brought up this diversity, because obviously we are on the unity
through diversity.
So that's, I feel like everything I create.
Listen to it on Spotify today. Link in the description.
Great. I should have recorded your voice as our
or record a commercial for it.
Intro and outro.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. If you want if you get a sponsor and you want me to make a commercial for it, absolutely.
Let's do that. Okay, I take it as a yes. Okay, we talk about this happy, the dreamy part, right? But let's talk about the one of the experience that we talk about. You shared it with me, but I think that's a great. Now, when we talk about everything, we talk about a coffee shop right now, right? We talk about dreaming. We talk about whoever the creator created their own creation and bring to this 3D world. That's sometimes you don't see what people try to create, right? And sometimes you're like, oh shit, this is totally not my vibe.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, let's talk about that one of the experience. What draw you to in that experience at the first place that you would dive into, you know? But I think people probably are very confused what I'm talking about. So I kind of want to put a little bit disclaimer for the experience that Nathan here is going to share. So we are not going to use the name of the company in this podcast because anything that we share here is about our personal experience.
Yeah,
it's our perspective.
It's what we gained from the experience.
So will you just with this type of not say warning, give people a little bit heads up? It's like, please do not go try to find out what companies that like Nathan was involved. What's the storyline about that? It's more about like the experience and also what do we learn from that, and we also from different angle to see why they believe what they believe. Yeah. But it's okay people believe what they believe, but once we lean into, maybe we realize that's not what I'm believing or you used to believe, but later I was actually I have different perspective on this thing. Yeah. So nothing against anybody's creation because everything come to this 3D world has a reason.
Yeah. And I truly don't even hold anything against anybody, so that's not difficult at all.
So can you touch on a little bit of you actually was working you were working at Creation Coffee. That we can brought out that up about the other party of the company. So how the story all started?
Yeah. So Creation Coffee is the current company that I work for. They're wonderful people. Actually, talking about this, how we were talking about coffee shops and the kind of coffee shop, it's been a really interesting experience because it's just a very different approach to coffee. They have several locations. They're not a chain. They're still owned privately, based out of Midland. But the guys there that own it are just the most understanding, empathetic, open people. And they came into an opportunity that they offered to me, which was that they were approached by a company in New York that was a sort of app tech startup that you might compare to DoorDash, except for the concept of it was that instead of sending drivers, you ordering on your app, sending the driver from wherever they are to go pick up a meal in Brooklyn to bring it to you in Queens or whatever, because that can take like an hour and a half in New York because of everything there in transit. The solution to that problem, to try and get people quicker food deliveries, was what if we have these little ghost kitchens everywhere and we ask restaurants, hey, instead of doing DoorDash, like you can license us your recipes. We will make everything ourselves and have the stuff to make them in all these different kitchens so that when someone orders a DoorDash or this company's version of it, it's coming from somewhere very close. And you can get it in 15 minutes. It's a very good idea, and so this startup started and it had been doing very well. It had been around for about a year, and they had just because obviously this is a startup and it doesn't have access to, say, Buffalo Wild Wings, Applebee's. It's not delivering those. So they started with small businesses, primarily in New York, that they would carry their food and whatnot. And they had a coffee place. That business connection failed. And so they approached Creation Coffee and they were like, we would like you to be our coffee option. So in other words, if someone wants to order coffee through our app, it's going to be yours. And they said yes. And prior to me getting off the opportunity, I'm going to talk about things had been going really, really well with that. They had flown the owners of Creation out to kind of show them the operation, stuff like that. The business was growing. They were adding more locations. And it came to this point to where they had a sizable budget and willingness to promote Creation Coffee in New York as a kind of thing on its own. So they were going to do this marketing campaign where, we market, this pizzeria or this coffee shop or stuff. And then, hey, you can get it in 15 minutes. And they needed somebody kind of on the ground out there to run that marketing plan, to kind of do quality control, make sure our product is being served up to our specs, and just look out for the interests of the company and facilitate that business part. And my bosses knew that I had an interest in moving out to the big city anyway because of being an actor, and I'd known them for a few years, and so they offered me the opportunity to go. I will include the terms of my hiring just because it becomes relevant later, which was that the company out there, I was going to be a 1099 worker for, which is also very important. So I was no longer technically legally working for Creation Coffee. I was working for this other company and getting paid by them. But obviously, I know what I'm doing there for Creation. And that they were going to provide my housing, that I was going to eat for free through this service, and then that I was going to be salaried at $4,000 a month. Yeah. So seems like a pretty sweet deal, right? Yes, I'm out there. I get to move out to New York. I'm working for these guys that I love. Free housing, free food, pocket change. It's all good. Yeah. Essentially, it's kind of hard to strip back the story because it is a long. Yeah.
What is the turning point?
The turning point came as soon as I hit the ground. I moved out to New York 6 days after I got the offer because I needed someone out there then. Yes. So within 6 days of getting that offer, I was landing in New York, and almost immediately the company out there, the CEO, who he realized that the company was not in as successful a position as he thought he was, and very quickly had to start laying off some people and even close their original location because it was so mismanaged through no fault of his own. And it became apparent very quickly within the first few days that the things that I was brought out there to do were not going to be something that was a viable plan of action for them. And so the CEO kind of took me on a walk, and he basically was like, hey, I'm really, really sorry. It's the luck of the draw. You've come out here at a really rough time for the company. And he was like, you've got two options. We've got you in an Airbnb right now until the apartment that we were going to move you into is ready. That Airbnb is up in about a week. They were like, you have two options. I can't have you do what you were going to do for Creation Coffee. It's just not in the cards right now. So you're free to stay in New York for that week. I can feed you. I just can't justify paying you. And you can enjoy a week in New York. I'm really, really sorry, but I appreciate it. And if we can have you back out again, we will. The second option is show up to work and make yourself useful. He was basically like, I'm still willing to employ you. It just doesn't make sense to pay someone to do what I was going to have you do. And so he was like, if you want to show up to work every day and, we'll put you to work. And if you can make it make sense to me to pay you, if you can make yourself an asset, then I will do that. Which to some people, I've had some people give me the reaction that was kind of cutthroat, but I really took it as a kindness. Being offered a free week in New York for the free food is not something that's a light deal. But I chose to show up and to try and help that company as much as I could, partially because I still saw it as benefiting Creation. Obviously, if I can help this company get its feet back under it, then I'm helping Creation to pursue its interest with it. Without going into all the nitty-gritty details, I ended up doing, needless to say, none of the things that I thought I was going to be doing, and working anywhere from 20 to 23 hours a day while I was out there. And I mean, seriously, like sleeping 45 minutes to like an hour and a half a night because of the dire state that the company was in, and just having me be basically just a runner, like doing whatever they needed, fixing things, handyman, driving things, places. Primarily, I was doing marketing, to where I was going out with like coolers of free drinks and passing them out and getting people to sign up for the app with my team that I had. And it was just this totally wild, insane experience and I was there for about a month. And I'll talk about, obviously, me leaving. But while I was there, it was just, you never really know. this is how I describe how I got back and how exhausted I was from when I was out there, is that like, if you've ever like laid really still, I used to do this when I was a kid a lot, like laid super still and like released all your muscles until you can like feel the blood like kind of like throbbing in your veins. It was as if like by the time I was done there, it was as if I came home and I could not feel the blood pumping through my veins. Like it was just this total draining of energy to a level that you didn't know was possible. But on the same token, I learned how much I was capable of, like how much work I could really do. You know, you never really know what the like output of a human being is until you're put into that situation. Not that I think anybody should be put into that situation, but it's an incredible thing to be taken to your limits, and you learn a lot about yourself in that way, for sure.
I want to stop you here for a little bit, because this is my probably second time to, you know, first time you shared it with me, running into the coffee shop. So you kind of shared with me with the story. That's also part of the reason I want to bring you up to, you know, this podcast. But I think there's a lot of things unfolding here. So part of one you already mentioned is your limits. Right? You would not know where's your limits at if you are not putting into the situation. Let's say aware or unaware, because this person actually gave you choices at the beginning. Right? The two choices, you know, you could choose choice A, but you choose
the
choice
easy
B,
choice,
right? And through this whole experience, I'm also, because we haven't touched on the actor, this part of you. This part of you as also a different identity, not different identity, but every role that in your life, I feel there's a theme, there's some grounding personality in all those roles, right? Now the actually the other part I actually thought about that is like, to be an actor, I'm gonna like bridge the gap.
We can bridge to actor, whatever. Right? It's all really related.
Exactly.
It really is.
So, you know, because I want to be in a movie. I totally share it with people. If I die in 10 seconds, I don't care. I just want to experience what it feels like to be an actor or actress. So whoever is listening to this, this is my, hey, open the container. But anyway, for you can tell me, because you are an actor, right? For you to really catch this essence of this role. Sometimes it's really hard that you cannot relate. And you know, I'm not saying you might open the opportunity in the future. Some are gonna come to you like, to my core, I know what does that feel like. Because you know, some actor or actress, they need to go through certain life experience to feel what it feels like to be a model, to be this and that. So to bridge the gap is, I feel like, you know, you choose what you choose, because I think that there is something that we do not understand right now, why you choose plan B. Of course, you probably know, because you are like, no, I'm going to show people that actually have value. And I want to challenge that. Challenge, not say challenge them. It's just actually, I want to show you, right? I'm here. I have a mission, and I didn't even do anything. It's not my personality. Just go. Just leave, is it? You could take a week, then come back and say, hey, it didn't work.
No, I wouldn't. I would have lost anything, go back to my old job, spend a week in New York free, basically. But I wanted to do that.
That's the turning point. There's about choices. Like now back to this is literally your personality, something essence inside of you. When you make that choice B, that choice B, what were you processing besides maybe something I'm assuming that, you know, you want to prove that your value was something, but actually, I think that deeply, you have something in your life when you look back, and not just this opportunity, in your life, in your childhood, in your, you know, teenagers. Like, I think there's something that defined who you are, made you different from Nathan and, you know, Nick, whoever, all there. That's something there. So will you kind of share a little bit more? I mean, maybe you don't, but I just feel that something is there define who you are, which is very important.
Your question is like, is there something that I can
why you choose choice B?
Why did I choose to stay? Essentially, like on a me level. Well, there's the immediate elements, right, that you kind of
Mm,
touched on, right?
yeah.
There's the ego element of, I want to prove to whoever, that this is who I am. And then there's the
Mm,
deeper element of like, I like the challenge of it for whatever animal reason it is.
yeah.
I'm out there, I'm in a new city, it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, what do I have to lose kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's also the elements of like, I want to be an actor, and it's
Mm-hmm.
obviously in my interest to live in New York City if I can, and if I could have made that work, then
Mm-hmm.
I'd be living in New York City free.
Yeah.
And so, I think that fueled a lot of it too. Um, but on like a deeper like me level, why I would make the choice to stay and do the like really really hard work,
Yes. That's
even if it ended up being harder than I thought it was going to be.
harder is an injustice
An
word.
injustice, yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint like any event or thing or quality, but I guess that I don't know. The thing that I think of is like growing up. Um, I love the way you nod. She's such a
Because
good
I was like,
listener.
hey,
I love her.
just
Um,
coming.
I think that growing up, I grew up in Saginaw, Michigan, in a
Mhm.
very, my dad owned a bar, but did manual labor in like GM factories his whole life. Was a union president, and his dad
Mm-hmm.
before him was a union president.
Yeah.
So lots of manual labor and decent work, and that American spirit of like, you do your best. You never do something half. I remember when I was a
Mm-hmm.
kid,
Yeah.
my dad would, tell me to go shovel the snow during the winter, and I would only shovel, I had like one of the small, like kid ones, and I would only shovel like the one path, like
Mm-hmm.
one stripe through it.
Yeah.
So like half the sidewalk would still have snow on it. And of course I was a kid and I was cold, but he would get so upset with me and, be like, well, you only did half the job. You never do half the job. You do your best, you finish it. And of course I never
Mm-hmm.
finished it when I was a kid. But like, so there's this element of like, I was raised that way, but I think that it more comes down to I have this sense of when someone needs the help.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it is. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think I can't claim any like big moral highness of
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I just truly believe in hard work. I do when it matters. And for me, the thing that makes me totally willing to do that hard work is when I see
Mm-hmm.
people trying to do something that they believe in. This company out there, I had a lot of talks like with the CEO because we ended up living together at one point during it.
Mm-hmm.
And me and him butted heads a lot and had a lot of problems. But I remember talking to him a lot about why he was doing what he was doing. And
Yes.
he had, if you could have him on this podcast, I mean, he had really just quite the life story of like what led him to that place. And even though I didn't, have a lot of like, my humanity didn't have a whole lot of crossover into his as far as his reasons for owning the company and why he thought it was so important.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing him so passionate about it and seeing the other people that I worked with putting in just as much work as me, whether for the same reasons or not, I think is what really drove me. I think it helps when I see their reason and I'm also passionate about it. And I've done tons of that work too. I mean, I think that's why, like, at Creation, like, my bosses were, that's actually a perfect example. My bosses were super, super kind to me. They gave me this awesome opportunity. And more than just not wanting to let them down, that shows me in other experiences I had with them, like, just decent people that are people first before employers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I value just kindness and decency so highly that when I see someone who is displaying this just awesome, decent human nature, I really want to just put all my heart and soul into what they want if I trust them. So maybe that's it. It's just I want to help people. I want to help them accomplish what they want to accomplish as well.
I think that's the part that they will try to pushing you to that corner to get that squeeze out. I mean, of course, in subconsciously, I think our on the soul level, we know why. But our conscious level, we never been to push it to that.
Yeah. Never think about it. Yeah.
Never thought about it, but like how we grow up, how our parents raised us, they usually plant a seed in our subconscious, how we behave. And I thank you for touching on their part, because we all come from somewhere. Before we even open this container to record this podcast, we are, honoring our, our parents, right? Grandparents, their spirit of how they work, how they move through life, what they believe. And actually you are, through here, I see part of them, right? How they move through and help people. And then you touch another part is like you were saying, but you are summarizing yourself of what drawn, things you've drawn to you, right? You really value the kindness and value what other people's passion, and you want to help people, support people with that, because when you see people passionate about something, you're like, can I give this person a little bit feel? Can I support this person?
It's a drug. It's awesome,
right?
It's a super cool thing.
It's like it's a feeling of fulfillment of this is some part of my just sole purpose. So I think that's really good. And for that question, I'm complete. They are telling me we are complete.